Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to another GTA discussion video where I'm going to be talking a little bit more about whether Rockstar are milking the game for as much as they can, are they being greedy? I'm basically continuing the discussion that I had in the previous video of this series where I analysed the Finance of Felony update, and towards the end of that video I was kind of rambling a little bit about how they sort of everything that they do these days is towards selling shark cards and the increasing prices of things and all that kind of stuff. It's all about selling shark cards now. So there were a lot of people that agreed with my stance on that. Obviously, if you haven't watched that video, I'll leave a link in the description. You can feel free to go watch that first. But there were a lot of people that agreed with my stance on that. There were some people that didn't. And what I want to do in this video is kind of take some of those counter statements that people were making that people disagreed with, try to clarify my stance on that and try to give some counters to the counters as well, and yeah, just basically have a bit more of a discussion about it. And I always encourage you guys to leave your comments in the description down below in these videos, because these are discussion videos. They're meant to open up a dialogue and let's just have a talk about it and see what people think, and I'm always interested to see different sides of it. So the main point that I was getting to in that previous video was that everything that Rockstar does these days with updates to GTA Online is all about selling shark cards. Now, some of the counters that people were saying for that is, if we didn't have shark cards, the game wouldn't continue to be supported, which, I totally get. We do need a way to continue to fund the game if we want to still see updates. And a few people were also saying that, they're optional. You don't have to buy a shark card. You can just earn the money in game. Now obviously that's not a lot of, there are some people that don't have the time to earn the money in game because it does take quite a while, especially for the brand new stuff, which is very, very expensive. But yeah, I understand that as well. Microtransactions in general and shark cards are optional features. They're optional extras. You don't have to buy them, and ultimately I don't really have a problem with them, and I didn't have a problem with them when the game first came out. I thought they were a little bit overpriced with how much they are. That's even worse now because the price of things in-game has gone up. But as a whole, I don't really have a problem with the idea of microtransactions and shark cards because they don't impact on the overall game experience when you're looking at it from a purely logical standpoint like that. However, there's a big difference between having microtransactions as an optional extra to having them actually decide the direction and implementation of game features. For example, look at some of the things that we've seen from GTA as time has gone on. We used to get new online content like vehicles in single player. We don't get that anymore. The heist vehicles, for example, aren't in single player, and pretty much all of the vehicles since then we don't get in single player. That reduces that basically, if they continue to put them in single player, that would reduce the amount of people who wanted to buy them online. So they do that on purpose so that people have to buy them online, buy shark cards to buy the vehicles online, because you can't get them any other way apart from obviously mods on PC. But also we don't get any, we haven't had any single player DLC. Like we had for GTA 4, we had two major packs. We had single player pretty much hasn't been touched, pretty much because it's probably not profitable enough. It takes too much time to create. It's a lot easier to just keep updating GTA Online with new cars and overprice them and get people to buy shark cards that way, and that's how they make money. The single player DLC probably wouldn't make as much money as that, and it would certainly be a lot more effort to create. We are getting higher and higher prices for everything. When you look at the vehicles that we get in every new update, they're all overpriced, especially if you compare them to the price of vehicles when the game first came out. And I guess you could say that some of that is to do with, balancing the game economy and things like that. But I would say that it's gone too far the other way now, and things are just way overpriced, especially a lot of the stuff with the new update. With the CEO missions and the warehouses and all that kind of stuff, that costs millions and millions of dollars, and everything is being monetized. You have to buy all of these optional extras for your warehouse, for your office. You have to upgrade these vehicles. You have to buy a safe, a weapons locker. All of that doesn't just come as a package. You have to actually buy those separately, and it costs even more and more money. Also, the weapons locker itself, it's interesting that people enjoy the aspect of a weapons locker, because obviously what you can do with the weapons locker is store weapons that you don't use. You know, when you buy too many weapons, your weapon wheel is just full of weapons that you don't use or don't need. What's interesting is that, and I thought this was still the case, but it actually isn't, what you used to be able to do was drop weapons in GTA Online, and you could get rid of weapons by just dropping them on the floor, walk away from them, and then you wouldn't have that weapon anymore. Now what happens, instead of that, you can still drop weapons, but when you go to a new session, you have that weapon back again. It doesn't save between sessions, and it doesn't save the idea that you've dropped that weapon. So you still have it back again as soon as you go into a new session. And basically, I don't know this for certain, but could they even have taken the feature out of the game to drop weapons so they can monetize it? You know, that is a possibility, that they've actually taken a feature out of the game to put it back in as a weapons locker so that they can monetize it, and you have to spend, you know, half a $1,000,000 buying a weapons locker to get back the functionality that you previously had. Because my weapon wheel on GTA Online is quite well organized, because in the past, before they made this change where it doesn't store, it doesn't save your state, I got rid of a lot of weapons, and I was happy with that, and it just stuck, and that was fine. But you can't do that anymore, so you have to buy a weapons locker. Little things like that where things are being monetized, and you know, we're not getting the content other ways, are all being driven to ultimately sell shark cards to those people who buy them, and those people who don't have the time to earn the money in game, which probably is a lot of people. So whilst all that's happening, you know, meanwhile, nothing that is already in the game ever gets sorted, and they continually don't listen to the community. They keep breaking classes for racing in terms of balance. There's tons of deathmatch issues. The content creator remains underdeveloped. The you know, very simple things that we've wanted from the content creator, even just the ability to remove lampposts and things like that, still aren't in there. The pedestrians even still spawn in races when traffic's turned off. Little things like that. Lobby systems and invites are still broken. There's still major issues with that often, especially with friends lists and things like that. We have so many vehicles that we still can't access or store in our garages under normal circumstances, like police cars, for no valid reason. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have been given that option. And basically all of the aspects of GTA that could be improved but wouldn't make them any extra money never get looked at. They're very quick to stop glitches and things like that people can get money from, but the aspects that would actually improve the game experience, they never get looked at. And so many suggestions from the community about so many different things have all been put out there. You know, the support forums are just littered with all these suggestions for all these different things that we would like to see, and nothing ever gets done. And if anything is added that people want, then they're crazily overpriced. You know, people wanted yachts for a long time. They eventually came, and they were at a huge expense. And the same for, you know, people who have wanted drug trafficking and things like that. They've obviously implemented that with the finance and felony update, but that's all at a huge cost. And honestly, I'd be surprised if there wasn't some level of monetization with the Cunning Stunts update that's coming soon. We don't know. There may not be. It might be one of the rare DLCs in recent times where we actually get something that improves the game experience and we don't have to pay anything for it. Obviously, there's going to be new cars anyway, but those are very few and far between these days. Now, obviously, people say that without the shark card money, the game would get abandoned, or if people stopped buying shark cards, then Rockstar wouldn't bother adding anything else. And I get the idea of that, but that's not really the case, because the game was being developed much better in the early days of GTA Online. You know, for example, we didn't even have the content creator or heists when the game first came out. Those are two big things that we do have now. And everything back then cost a lot less. Now I can take into account the idea that, you know, they've put in more ways to make money, especially with heists, so obviously the price of things is going to increase to a certain amount, but even back in those early days, they were still making money from shark cards, but it wasn't enough for them. They weren't making enough money So they added more expensive items, more and more expensive items, and focused on adding things that required more and more money, rather than actually focusing on fixing things, listening to the community, and adding things that don't necessarily require money to enjoy. Yes, you don't have to buy a shark card, but when the price of items increases at a higher rate than the ability to actually make money legitimately, it becomes increasingly difficult to justify it. And when the game starts to neglect certain areas in favour of developing things that solely sell shark cards, that's not good for anyone who plays the game, and ultimately it's all just about greed. Everything is still free, yeah, if you play enough and grind enough and you have the time to do that, but a lot of people don't. And it's much more difficult now than it used to be to make the money required for the most expensive items. It just seems that in the early days of GTA, we used to get big updates like the content creator or like heists, and then the ability to buy things via microtransactions and shark cards was a secondary aspect. You know, they introduced new vehicles alongside more full DLCs and more full content, whereas these days it seems like the selling of shark cards and the implementation of things that cost money is the primary focus. And when we get stuff that you don't have to pay for to enjoy, it's amazing, and we don't really get that anymore. It's the focus of the whole game design has shifted towards selling shark cards and making money off shark cards from just making a good game experience. And honestly, it seems symptomatic of the game industry as a whole these days. We kind of roll over and accept microtransactions because they're not mandatory and they keep a game supported. But the problem is when microtransactions become the prime focus of the development team. Instead of focusing on creating a great game experience, for example like the DLC packs that we got for GTA 4 back in the day, or the content creator or heist update, which were some of the best in GTA 5 in the earlier days, developers instead focus on making content that's going to make them the most money. And often this takes less work because they can just play marketing tricks like I mentioned in the previous video, holding back some vehicles, releasing 7 vehicles in a DLC but only releasing 4 of them first of all and then releasing 1 at a time later on, like we saw with the Lowriders update. Little tricks like that to maximize the amount of income that they generate and from selling shark cards. And the content of the updates themselves become worse, ironically, because the poorer quality content makes more money than the higher quality game content ever could. I can't see them ever making a single player DLC pack because they won't make anywhere near as much money as what they do from just putting out lots of different vehicles in such a small time. Whereas the big DLC packs, they take much more time to make, and it's a shame that game design goes that way. It seems like the idea of making a great game and making a great game experience is being lost because they are focusing all their attention on microtransactions and selling as many shark cards as possible. There's a reason GTA YouTubers don't spend a week making a single well-crafted video when they could make 73 minute long videos instead in that same week. Money drives everything, and with microtransactions and YouTube videos alike these days, lower quality content makes more money because it can be pumped out more frequently. I'm okay with shark cards if we actually got some decent content alongside the normal stuff that didn't require you to spend money to enjoy, but that never ever seems to happen anymore. And it seems even more prevalent these days that Rockstar are milking the game and trying to get the most out of it before it eventually dies off and they stop supporting it, rather than actually continuing to create a great game experience. And I know you don't have to buy shark cards, and I know shark cards do continue to support the game. I get all that. It's just that it's more of a mindset thing about the way that the game is being developed, more so than the actual the nuts and bolts of microtransactions in the first place. Microtransactions are fine as optional extras. It's when they become the driving force of the development of the game, that's when they become a problem. But ultimately it works. You know, this free to play model, this mobile game model of microtransactions works in $60 video games with AAA titles. It works because they keep doing it. I'm a person who wants better content, but maybe I'm in the minority when it comes to that. And the majority of people are quite happy to see these microtransactions and shark cards, and because it keeps the game supported and keeps gaining updates. But I'm seeing it from a different aspect, and I'm seeing the way that the game industry is going and the way that GTA 5 is going in terms of the kind of updates that we used to get compared to the kind of updates that we're getting now, and it's just nowhere near as good. And I know that microtransactions and shark cards in general have those loopholes of where you don't have to buy them and things like that. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, and it's not just a case of whether you have to buy them or you can earn the money in game, or they're not affecting the game experience in a sort of cold, logical way. It's whether they're affecting the game experience in a more broad way, and that's my aspect, and that's the problem that I have with the more recent updates that we've seen to GTA. So that's pretty much it. That's my video on it. Let me know your thoughts down below. As I always say, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to see whether you agree with this, whether you disagree. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support. I really do appreciate it. I hope this video has been a good one, and it sparks some discussion in the community about this. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.